Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of us to today's African Leadership Group Nigerian Leadership Series. And today promises to be a very, very interesting and exciting discourse because I have on set today one of my truly special people, special to me and to my late wife in many ways. And I'd like to welcome him and thank him for his great support in the past and his support also in the future. The African Leadership Group generally is trying to look at the issue of leadership, not just in Nigeria, but all over Africa as a grand vision. One of the things that we have suffered from in Africa is a lack of focused, purposeful, direct, and impactful leadership that has made it impossible for us to grow our economy as Africans. What the Sheikh Al Maktoum has done in 40 years in Dubai, we could have done in 60 years and even more in Nigeria. So it's very painful to see us going through these issues, and it all rises and falls on leadership. So the grand plan is to see how we can provoke leadership and good leadership in Africa, starting, of course, with our Jerusalem, which is Nigeria. And that is why we're having the Nigerian Leadership Series, engaging people, talking to people, finding out from people, getting ideas, and bringing all of us together so that we can look at this issue in Nigeria, even as we approach 2023 and beyond, and make sure that somehow or the other, number one, we get involved. Number two, we contribute our own quota. Number three, we work very, very hard to ensure that we have the right kind of leadership in Nigeria. So we've engaged quite a lot of people, found out the ideas, Tomiwala Dekomo, Youth, Alera Ida, Otobo, Yemi Ademolekun, Bashir Gwandu, Oke, Anya Yagu, my good friend who fought in the Biafran War, Uncle Ayo Kwadokun, Ayo Akife, Chikioge, Aisha Umar, Basil Yusuf, Ibrahim, Yemi Kadir Johnson, Dr. Onaiko, Senator Tulu Odebi, Emmanuel Daniel, Senator Larry Tedrosho, A.R. Bernard from the diaspora, Aguiruku from the diaspora, Tokwe Faswa, who used to run for presidency many years ago, Kwajoyema de Pastor, Tokwe Shonubi, Tokwe Togun, Omotola Mobolurin, very, very explosive session with him, Emmanuel Daniel, and so on and so forth. And last week, I believe, we had Peter Obi, two-term governor of Anambra State and former deputy presidential aspirant of the PDP. Today, a gentleman was born in the 60s, October, to the family of late Aliu and Alaja Sharata, who mentioned his name. He's a lecturer, he's a lawyer, he's a political technocrat, and started school here in Lagos and went on to study law, and then he went in the University of Ilorin, and his career as a lawyer began in 1984, many, many years ago, as a very, very young lawyer, and then transferred to University of Lagos in 1986, where he completed his law education at the undergraduate level in 1988. And he then did his youth service, did some stint in Abeokuta, joined the Faculty of Law in the University of Lagos in 1991, became an assistant lecturer in 1992, senior lecturer in 1999. Of course, he went into property law so that he could make a lot of money, and he's authored many books, the Blue Book, Practical Approach to the High Court of Lagos State, and so on and so forth. Come on, his CV here is almost a book on itself. Along the line, he became a commissioner in the Lagos State government, first of all under Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and thereafter stretched into the governorship of also a great lawyer, the former governor of Lagos State. And he became commissioner for transport, and then also did quite a lot of work in those areas. He led to the emergence of the bus rapid transit BRT. So if you're having problems with BRT, it is this gentleman that has caused your problem. He also did a lot of work in infrastructure, Lagos State ferry services, very, very amiable personality, strong voice, great sense of humor, worked also with Governor Fashola and did quite a lot of work, and was hitherto also an active member of the APC, legal advisor at some stage, but now driving a movement of politics himself, and became senior advocate of Nigeria in 2015 and a member of the body of benchers in 2017. Please welcome with me Dr. Muiz Adeyemi Banire, SAN, happily married to Alhaja Fumi Banire, blessed with 4 children, Muiz Jr., Madiat, Malik, and Mariam. My brother, you are welcome to the African Leadership Group, the Nigerian Leadership Series, and thank you for agreeing to be part of this discourse. We're looking today at the challenges ahead of us as we move towards a new political dispensation in Nigeria. Maybe you want to first of all speak to the present political structure, APC, PDP, a plethora of other parties. What does it portend for us in Nigeria? What's your review and analysis of each of these parties? And what's your review and analysis of the present political structure and infrastructure, INEC, and so on and so forth in Nigeria? Muiz.
Well, thank you very much. And let me also equally show my gratitude for providing a platform to share some of my thoughts with you today on a subject that is of common interest to all of us. And I welcome all participants equally on board in the matter that I understand, I don't know, I have 15 minutes first to address the participant. I will struggle with that certainly because certainly like you said, for us to discuss challenges ahead, we certainly must know where we are now. And it is in this regard that I will start with the aspect that you have alluded to some few minutes ago, that is the present political structure and what it is, what it implies, or what does it mean to an average person in Nigeria. Without doubt, there are so many issues involved in this that we cannot even complete in 1 hour. We all know we have parties, no doubt about that in Nigeria today. Parties, by the Constitution of Nigeria, are meant to be the vessel through which you are able to contest an election. In other words, to ascend into a political office in Nigeria, meaning without political party, you cannot contest an election as of today. Unfortunately, let me quickly say that in Nigeria, from my own perspective, we do not, strictly speaking, have anything called political party. What we have largely in Nigeria are political platforms. In other words, they are just vessels, like I said, through which people contest with no ideology, no clear-cut ideology. In fact, I describe them oftentimes as cut and paste political parties. But virtually all the Constitution and the manifesto, if you look at most of them across board, they are virtually identical. You just cut and paste. So there is nothing peculiar with any political party. If you are contending, I belong to this party, I belong to that party, there is, in my view, nothing of distinction to tread on. Now, beyond the political parties, we all know what obtains there today. They are meant, like I said, to give birth through election to leadership. What have they given us as a date? For me, I have no doubt, and I know a lot of people will agree with me that what we have recorded so far are substantially garbage in terms of leadership, the qualities of leaders that have emerged through that electoral process. So that means that there is certainly something wrong with that process, the electoral system itself. And I will just, since there is no time, paraphrase the first major problem we have beyond the issue of not having parties on ideological leanings is the problem of the emergence of of candidates within the political platforms. In most cases, ordinarily by the Constitution, by the Electoral Act, and equally by the constitution of the party, there are supposed to be a nomination processes. And I say processes in the sense that there are several stages of it. But what has emerged largely across board all over the country today is the activities of those we describe as godfathers. The godfathers in most of the political parties have hijacked the process of nomination to the extent that what we have, rather than a nomination or a democratic process that will lead to nomination of candidates, we have a situation where we have imposition of candidates all over the whole place. And certainly they will never put any smart person there. So that's one of the things you must take on board and note now. They never will encourage or promote anybody that is smart, except that person does that. So that is the first challenge we have. So at the end of the day, those who eventually emerges as product of political parties are in most cases charlatans, except some few instances. And where we have such a situation, you cannot expect any good governance. Our hope and our expectation at all times is that we have good governance in the country, but I need not tell you that that is still a major challenge in our structure. Funding of political parties is another issue, and that is the process through which most fathers hijack the process. Rather than the members funding the party, some few people come together, in most cases through ill-gotten wealth, hijack the parties through the funding process. And although INEC is supposed to monitor the funding of political parties, they lack the capacity, which is the truth. I need not also tell you about money politics. Most of the times you find out that money is a significant role in the of Nigeria. And beyond that also is the hijack, the manipulation of the process, snatching of ballot papers, violence, thuggery, forgery of results, and so on and so forth. So too many afflictions affecting our electoral process. So the product ultimately is a challenge. And what has the process given back to? It has given back to so many anomalies, such as unemployment. And unemployment today is in excess of 20-something% in the country. That has led equally to insecurity all over the country. Today, we have the problem of infrastructure. Undergraduates have been away from school for more than a year. Even the quality of the education that you even get, even they are on school at all levels, is appalling. So, health system that has been shown or revealed to be in comatose during the emergence of the COVID, so many other afflictions. And so as a result of at the end of the day, what we now discover is that we cannot boast of good governance in the country. And I have said to myself that there are so many, one major issue that is even a major affliction in the system is the lack of institutions. We do not even have institutions, much less saying we have having strong institutions. And you can never have strong institutions except you embrace the rule of law. In Nigeria, we have not taken the rule of law seriously. We tend, and we are still struggling at all times to ensure that what we have is strong individuals as opposed to strong institutions. Institution operates where there is total compliance with the rule of law. We all know what the rule of law is. If I give you it's just a small example, a little illustration of what happened at the point in time. You all will recall when Magu was to be confirmed as EFCC chairman, and there was a report from the Department of State Security indicting him of Saturday, and a lot of people came out to condemn this Department of State Security for writing a damning report about somebody equally nominated by the presidency. The reality is that in all civilizations or progressive civilization, each of them have what I would describe as their Bible. Their Bible is the law creating and setting them up. DSS need not take corrective from the presidency. Since the same manner, the police is not meant to take instruction from the president and all other institutions, including the FCC. Those are ideal situations, and those are where institutions operate. We all witnessed what happened in America recently. If they have not had institution, if it had happened in a place like our own, imagine what could have been the end result. But still, their institution resisted all the Trump pranks. And at the end of the day, the judiciary, you saw the role played by the judiciary within a couple of weeks, 62 cases dispensed with immediately. The military kept on pronouncing that we will not accept this and so on and so forth. And even the parliament itself rose and condemned, even part of some of them members of his own political party. Those are institutions. So this again is lacking. So these are giving back to all manners of challenges in our system that today, like I said, essentially, we do not have good governance in the arena. Now, the last aspect that I also want to talk about is that relating to the vulnerables. We have so many vulnerable people in the system. We have particularly the poor people. They are often taken for granted, and we, on our part too, particularly the elites, we encourage such violation of their right. And this is where we have another major challenge. And lastly, rounding up on that issue is the level of literacy. And when I say literacy, it's not about even ability to read and write alone. It's about being informed. How many of the eligible voters are informed about what is going on? How many of them are exposed? How many of them know what and what they should focus on in the determination or in the exercise of their franchise? That is highly negligible. I make bold to tell you today without fear of contradiction that more than 70% of the people that determine who our leaders are today are the uninformed. They do not even know the reason why they are voting, much less knowing the candidate they are voting for. They are goaded into voting for along a particular line, whether for parochial reason, let me put it summarily like that. So these are some of the challenges that we presently have in the system, and there is no system confronted with all these anomalies that can give birth to anything that is credible. Therefore, we will continue except all these factors are addressed to have the challenges we have in our hands. And I think summarily, I will say, therefore, that we still have the major challenge of good governance in the country. Thank you very much.
Pastor.
I think it's.
He has.
You're muted.
Where is Pastor? Pastor, don't run.
Thank you very much, my dear brother. I'm sorry I was muted. Here we are. Sorry I'm muted, but now I'm back. I think you can all hear me. Yes, Muiz, you have listed quite a lot of issues as challenges, garbage in terms of leadership, problems of godfatherism, candidate imposition, ignorance among both the electorate and those who choose our leaders for us. People are misinformed and a lot of anomalies here and there. Let me cut the chase and go straight to the crux of the matter. 2023 is approaching, and from your own perspective and your own standpoint, what do we need to do on this platform or as average Nigerians to ensure that we get the right kind of leadership in Nigeria in 2023? What should we do as Nigerians?
Well, I will address that question from two perspectives. Firstly, what we need to do, essentially, in my view and from my experience, is political education and enlightenment of the voters is a major issue. We need that education. Like I said to you earlier, most of the eligible voters are uninformed. And to that extent, they do not know the essence of their vote. We need to be able to establish to them the nexus between their vote and their life. We must let them see that it is that singular vote that that will entitle them to quality education, quality health service, employment, that will take them out of poverty, that will provide infrastructure, until they see that without exercising this vote correctly, they will continue to be endangered. It's a major task that I know that we have to embark upon. We have to educate them. Otherwise, the politician will continue to take advantage of them. So political education is the most potent thing that needs to be done as a matter of urgency, and time is running out. That is number one. I must confess to you that I have, in conjunction with quite a lot of other platforms, been doing or struggling with this particular aspect for quite some time. And regrettably, I am not too sure that we have made enough progress. In fact, my situation got to the level that I might say in recent time, I'm somehow frustrated. And that made me or led me into a new direction, which ordinarily I shouldn't be known for. Which direction am I talking about? Ordinarily, I would be one of the people that will always canvass the right of the masses, particularly the poor and the vulnerables. But in contemporary periods, stemming from my experience in enlightening them, like I said earlier, with due respect to them, they are the people that are creating the problem for themselves and for all of us today. Because of their lack of exposure, lack of information, they tend at the end of the day to merchandise their votes. When they merchandise it or they vote along parochial line, religious, ethnic, and some other consideration, they endanger all of us collectively. What am I proposing, therefore? I tried as much as possible to now go back to history. I looked at the historical evolution of franchise system in the United States of America. I peeked into that in the United Kingdom, and I discovered that in the United States of America, it took over 200 years for everybody to start voting. There was a time in the history of the United States of America that you must be a landowner, you must be a property owner to exercise franchise. At the point, you must be a taxpayer. At the point, literacy became a prerequisite for you to be able to exercise franchise. It was not until after about 200 years before they could have universal suffrage in that country. In England, it took much more than that, equally. All these things took place. In fact, I think it was not until about 1928 that we had that. Even at 1918, women were still being discriminated against. And in that wise, I'm beginning to think, and I did say it, that there might be a need to start qualifying this privilege. I don't call it right to vote, privilege to vote. In other words, you must be informed. Is that I don't know, I must confess to you, I don't know which qualification to put or which rider, but it's either that you must be literate or you must have a stake in one form or the other in the system, and you must understand the nature of your franchise before you can exercise it. The situation that we have in our hand is really interesting. And I remember Socrates condemned this outrightly. And I remember reading Plato recently, and Plato said something interesting. He said, he illustrated the situation we are in Nigeria today, like that of a ship navigator. He said, if a couple of people were brought together and some people were paraded in front of them to be captains that could navigate a ship, and they are asked, okay, which one of them do you want to paddle or to ship or to navigate this ship? At the end of the day, the implication without them knowing what are the intricacies of competence to navigate, they might end up taking somebody that will endanger all of them. So it is crucial for them to actually understand the intricacies and know who possesses those criteria of competence to be able to navigate. And it is the same illustration we need to adopt in this instance now. If somebody is just going to vote, he does not know what he's going to vote or who is going to vote or why he's even voting. At the end of the day, it's going to endanger all of us. So for me, it might be necessary to start thinking that it's still not until when our democracy is matured. This one is not mature, it's still premature largely. 60 years, in fact, it was in 1954, more or less, that we started having majorly the universal suffrage. Because even after 1954, Northern women were not voting. They were not allowed to vote in 1954. It was not until we had the 1979 Constitution that we truly started having universal suffrage. So that is one aspect that we probably need to also look at. But by and large, I think the entire electoral system needs to be overhauled, right from the political parties to the electoral register to even the way and manner we exercise our franchise. We might start thinking of the combination of both the electronic voting and the manual, because if you say electronic alone, people will tell you that there are some areas that we do not have telecommunication coverage or infrastructure. In those few areas in the outskirts, you probably will have to do manual. But in most of the other areas, we might have to find a way of adopting the electronic system, because I tell you for free now, most of the elites are not coming out to vote. Why are they not coming out? In the first instance, they originally used to believe that their vote will not count. But in contemporary times, they also fear for their lives because of the talks and the violence usually perpetrated. They scare them away deliberately. But where you have to vote from your bedroom, then you don't have any cause not to vote. Look at the voters apathy, 35% to determine the presidency of Nigeria. Is that not appalling? So for me, we need to overhaul, as a matter of urgency, the entire electoral process. And I'm glad that INEC has put a draft bill amendment of the electoral bill before the night. Hopefully that something will be done before that period. But for now, there are a lot of things that needs to be done, because without that process being overhauled, you can never have credible leaders. And once we don't have credible leaders, these challenges we are having presently will continue to linger. Thank you. So summarily, civic education first, that is the major one. People must understand why. And let me not also forget, pardon me, there's one aspect that we also overlook, the vulnerables. There are some vulnerable that have nobody to protect them in the system. So most times they haven't go there to vote along a particular line. And who are these people? I give you an example, the market women and men. It takes only one local government chairman to go to the market and tell the market women and the women and say, look, in fact, the worst one is that they force them to sleep in the market overnight. They order them to sleep in the market, not only to sleep overnight in the market in the open air, they will force them to vote along particular land. And they can't resist. Why can't they refuse? Why can't they exercise their free will? It's simple. They are afraid of their means of livelihood, that the next day they might come and shut their store, shut their market, and nobody will be there for them. These people need to be protected. Oftentimes, you discover that after sleeping overnight in the market, just to vote along particular land as compelled, they often caught malaria or caught any other infection, and nobody will be there. They die off. So these are some of the challenges that we have, and that somebody somewhere must rise up to protect these vulnerables.
Okay, I think you mentioned some very important things, and that is the historical evolution of franchise. Now, in these countries where they had this franchise evolution, were they done strategically and deliberately? Was it just a weapon of oppression by some who knew against those who didn't know? Because indeed in Nigeria, there might be a slight semblance of it in some parts of Nigeria. So I want that to be clarified for us.
Well, please go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you.
No, go ahead. Maybe you should take that.
Okay. Thank you very much. From my study of what had happened, the evolution there, it was by design. Although there were agitation to continue to improve it, it was by design, more or less. But along the line, of course, there will always be, and there were agitations at every step of it. And like somebody asked on the chat now, said, would that not be unconstitutional now? Let me ask you, people of unsound mind are not allowed to vote. Somebody who is not informed, is it not as good as a person of unsound mind when you don't know what you are doing? Of course, I would describe you as somebody of unsound mind. So if you are saying, even in some jurisdictions, prisoners are not allowed to vote in some jurisdictions. So what are we talking about? This does not necessarily, why do we have representative? Why is it even in America that they deal with the electoral college to determine who is their president, as opposed to popular vote? That should ordinarily be on democratic, to say majority of the people voted for a particular candidate, but you now say, oh, because some of them had 3 seats, some had 5 seats, based on their contribution. You know, most of these seats were allocated based on the contribution of the state to their economy. And at the end of the day, they are the people, it's those electoral seats that eventually determine who become. That was how Trump became the president of America as against Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton won majority of the votes, but in the electoral college, she lost. So nothing on Democratic Party. And I believe that it's a schematic thing that needs to be addressed in that context. People must understand why they are pursuing a particular agenda or why they are going in a particular direction. Otherwise, we all continue to be endangered because they don't know what they are doing. And if they don't know what they are doing, it's just like somebody, you just say, vote anybody to be a pilot. Will you want to go inside that vehicle? It's the same thing. It's the same analogy. Because you are going to endanger yourself by putting your affairs in the hands of somebody who is not competent to run an affair for you. That is why today it glances one to see elite being impacted negatively by what is going on. They have now woken up. Before, they used to ignore the electoral process. Today, they are beginning to wake up because their businesses are already impacted. And this is the reality. We must find a way. I must tell you, I do not have I'm not clear in my thought as I thought that I'm talking for you. What should be the barometer for determining those who should exercise pressure? But I believe that there certainly must be people who have a stake and understand clearly the importance of their vote, not just anybody who can sell it or dish it away for 10 naira or 20 naira. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very interesting, but there's also a risk, and maybe we need to think through that risk. I'm aware that it is possible that in some parts of Nigeria, there are deliberate attempts to keep people ignorant, okay, by the elite or the people who are in power by not allocating the right kind of resources to educating and enlightening people and taking them off the poverty line. So we run the risk also of one or two of these people taking advantage of that system and keeping even many more people in ignorance and in poverty so that they can continue to run almost a fiefdom. So maybe you can look at that and speak your thoughts to that. But then what is also very important to me is what you've mentioned a lot of electoral reforms. How can we get the government of the day or INEC or whoever to make the necessary electoral reforms? The truth about Nigeria, to be honest, my brother, is that we all know what to do. We've been arguing about restructuring for years. People know what to do, but it's just that when people get into power or into government, they begin to think a bit differently and think more about themselves. There's been the argument of unicameral assembly, National Assembly. Why do we have two houses? Why don't we have one? And the argument is almost dead on arrival because it is those who will take that decision that we're talking about. Maybe you can speak to these 3 or 4 issues while I begin to tell people on the platform who have questions to begin to prepare their questions. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. As people that have been deliberately or consciously subjugated, of course, it's not a part of the political tool of the politicians, like we tacitly alluded to. It's deliberate. They want to keep them in poverty level. They want to make sure that they continue to be wretched so that they can't think. In fact, like I said to somebody recently, I don't know, it was Professor Patrick told me that. I said that at times when people talk about COVID, that it makes you lose your sense of smell, sense of taste. At times, when you get into you lose your sense of reasoning. And I think this is part of what is beginning to unfold these days. And I believe that even where they are being subjugated, that is why I said there's a lot of work for those who are concerned to educate those people that they want to do. It's a lot of tasks. I do not see, some of us are already struggling. We are struggling with it. We've not made so much remarkable progress. But I believe that we probably should not give up and continue to try as much as possible. But unfortunately, too, those where they are doing so too, they are seeing the repercussions already. They are seeing the repercussions. That is where we are the highest level of insecurity today. Because these people are uniformed, they don't even know what they are doing. So they are endangering them now. How many of them are able to go to their various states again outside Abuja or the Southwest? It's the product, the implication. You see, when you are doing certain thing, you don't look at it holistically. Then you continue to enjoy yourself ultimately, indirectly. And this is what is happening there. So again, we probably need to enlighten those people that are the actors in this regard before we even go to the level of those that are below, that are being subjugated. Now, the electoral reform certainly will be resisted to a large extent by those who are the political operators right now. It is a natural, it is expected. They are taking benefit of the system now as it is. So you do not expect automatic embracement of that reforms. But again, I believe it's a struggle. It depends on how many of our people we are able to mobilize and convince and educate, and if possible, indoctrinate about the need to undertake this major reform in their interest and in our collective interest. Like I said, it's an Herculean task, but once we give up, we should just give up about the country. So for me, we must continue to struggle with them in respect of all this electoral process. And at times, the judiciary can play a role in this process. When we place certain issues before the judiciary and they are able to rule on them for us, we probably will. For example, I have a matter before the Federal High Court, Abuja now. What are we challenging? You know the astronomical cost that political parties or platforms always associate with expression of interest and forms. Somebody who is a graduate who just started, well, maybe 2-3 years, that is interested in contesting election, they say, come and pay 10 million naira, deposit 10 million naira in the political party policy. That cannot be right. So we are challenging it to say, no, you can't do that. So some of these issues at times we might have to test before the judiciary and see the direction we can go in that regard. Again, of course, on the system of government, I am of the view that the democracy, as good as it is, has so many flaws. Part of the flaw is the franchise system that I alluded to earlier. You will discover democracy, people tend to misconstrue democracy with good governance most times. Democracy is far off from good governance. You can have democracy. In fact, in a whole lot of African countries today, we have democracy, but what do we have? We have bad leadership. And we have a lot of other countries, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, even China, that they have funny democracies here and there, even Thailand, where they had a military recently, or still having military. You see a lot of progress, developmental progress there. So for me, it's not so much about the system of government, it's more of the people themselves, the people, the leadership, who is at the end of after. You alluded to Sheikh Maktoum. Sheikh Maktoum today is like a miracle worker. It's like a magician. When you read all his book, you see the way the man has been able to navigate progressively that country. And you can see that there is nothing unusual but commitment and belief and conviction in the happiness of his people. And that has been the driving force. We also saw what happened to the Angela Merkel in Germany recently. Those are the kind of leaders that you are looking up to. But unfortunately, you cannot have these leaders except the electoral process is laundered. We need to clean it. As if we don't do that, we continue to have a challenge in our house. So the system of government itself, particularly the presidential system, is to me like a cost for Nigeria. Most of the money, most of the revenue that we have applied to infrastructural development today, we are using on overhead. Our overhead is already cleaned the system from inception. I'm also subscribed to the restructuring of even the parliamentary. In fact, I believe in the parliamentary system. I must confess to you, I'm one of the apostles of parliamentary system. So I believe somewhere along the line, like you rightly said, I will continue to this thing because those who ought to make it happen are people that are in charge and who will never allow it to happen. But I tell you for free, sovereignty belongs to the people. Sovereignty belongs to the people. Power belongs to the people. The day the people are enlightened, they will sack them easily. There are so many ways to sack them and get the right set of people into the place who will navigate the system in the interest of all of us. And I think those are my own thoughts on the issue.
Thank you very much. Let me ask a couple more questions. And then if you do want to ask a question or make a comment, please indicate by raising your hands after this round of questions, and then we'll take up those questions. Please make your questions very short and straight to the point. Pastor Muiz, yes, let me call you Pastor.
Yes, Pastor is there. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Muiz, we have two political parties, APC, PDP, prominent political parties, and several others, and so on and so forth. You've been a prominent member of the APC hitherto, and I'm sure you have a lot of friends in the PDP and so on and so forth. And you have alluded to the fact that, in your own opinion, they are mere political platforms. What reforms can those parties, or the parties that we have as they are they capable of producing good leaders? And if they are, what do they need to do? And if they are not, what do we need to do to ensure that come 2023, we don't have, as somebody said, two leaders that we cannot handle, or that are not quite, that will not fit the bill? What do we do?
Well, the starting point is what we've been agitating for in the last two constitutional amendments: independent candidacy. We must start allowing independent candidacy. In other words, let individuals without political platform start contesting election. If you know you are popular, you can convince your constituents on your own steam, allow him to go ahead and contest. That's one way to also demystify not only the political parties, also the political godfather. You will demystify them through that means. That's number one. Number two is the infiltration of good people into the political platform. As of today, I can tell you without fear of contradiction that we have clear and substantial deficit of good people in all the political platform. Majority of the people there have no interest of the country at heart. They are just people, if you like, you can describe them as scavengers that are just looking for survival in one way or the other. And that is another point I must quickly make. I think the time is overripe, that we must not allow anybody to ascend any political office again without any form of pedigree. It is very important. The person must ask, what have you done in your life before? What progress have you made in your own life before you can start paddling our own affairs for us? You must have what I always call alternative contract address. You must have alternative job. Politics must not be your job. You can see people for 30, 40, 50 years struggling. That is why people are ever ready to kill themselves and kill others, just because they don't have any other thing. They can't do any other thing. They can't survive elsewhere. They love cheap money. And that is very, very pertinent to that. We must address that aspect, that in voting, in determining who we should even vote for, we must look at the pedigree. People in all the environment must be able to organize a manifesto night or ask questions and answers about the competence, the pedigree of those people. That's very, very important. And thirdly, like I said, we need to mobilize credible people into the political party. We do not even need, I tell you for free from my experience, if you can just get about 15% good people into all the political platform, they will revolutionize it. The challenge is that majority of the people in all the political are the uninformed. They are the poor people. They don't understand anything. They look up to whoever can buy their conscience. That's what they look up to. So somebody somewhere needs to let them know that their vote is their life in the first instance. And secondly, that whatever amount they are giving them is a fraction of what they ordinarily are entitled to. I used to tell them that if somebody comes to you and says he's giving you 50,000, know that your entitlement is 5 million. He has even deprived you of much of your entitlement. You must resist him. If you cannot resist, collect the money and vote against him. In fact, the more reason why you must collect the money and vote against him, you must know that that person does not mean well, because he's a trader, he's a merchant, he's a political merchant. At the end of the day, when he gives you that money, of course, he wants to recoup his investment with interest, with dividend at the end of the day. So you are worse off. So again, that is very crucial. So another assignment, if you still want to stick with this political platform, we need to get more good people into the political platform. I tell you for free, particularly when it comes to the nomination process. If you can get the nomination process of political platform right, if, for example, you have PDP, for example, bringing up a very competent and APC, a quality person, maybe which one is maybe the old or the former Labour Party, for example, bringing up another good candidate. Even if there is eventual rigging, we will not be shortchanged. We still get a good product. But if PDP gives us a charlatan, APC gives us an idiot, another one gives us an imbecile, at the end of the day, whichever of them emerges, we are completely down. So we must get people to move into the political, and not only move there, get interested in the nomination process, so that at the end of the day, quality candidate emerges from all the political platform. So even if they manipulate, at least we'll be better off. And I think that's my response.
Okay, those are three very good points that you've made. Number one, people on the platform, you need to get involved. We need good quality people getting into the political parties, political process, joining the parties and making themselves available, and also influencing the decision-making process of how the leaders emerge. Okay. I like this, your idea of independent candidates. And Adewale Martin said it's a way of making godfathers irrelevant. Okay, so are we saying that you just pick up yourself, you say you're an independent candidate, you start printing posters, running up and down, and then people then vote for you? Or do we also have a process of weeding down, or whatever, anybody who says is an independent candidate before it goes to the polls? Can you deep in that thought a bit more if you've thought about it, or not?
Well, there is, I know that the last experiment, constitutional amendment, I was part of it as one of the consultants, and we work on it. We put some criteria through which, for example, certain number of people must nominate in your constituency. That's one of them. And once you are able to get those certain number of people, then you have the pedestal to vie for the post. So certainly there are around it, but at least that will enable you. We didn't happen before. Who have succeeded the strength of their personality in election. We've seen it in this country. It has happened over time. It has happened in my own local government before. And there's no reason why you should not allow such people, if they are sure of themselves and they have the plan of their constituents, not to be able to be given the freedom outside any political platform to contest the election on their own individual team. So there will be some measure of criteria around it.
So why are they finding it so difficult to just allow independent candidates? Why can't they do that? Why do we have to have a party system in the first place?
Because the godfathers are using their instrumentality to frustrate the process. You know, by the time the thing was scaled through both houses of the National Assembly the last time, but by the time it got to the state, they couldn't acquire the support of 2/3 of the states. I think they lost by about 2 or 3 states.
Interesting. Okay, there's David Bankole has a comment or a question. So David Bankole, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question or make your remark very quickly, 1.5 minutes or 1 minute.
All right, thank you, Pastor Itua, for this. My question borders on what you started with when you talked about voters' participation. And I was wondering how realistic it is if we look at how things evolve over time, how people that don't really have a stake in the country the larger percentage of people that don't have a stake or any form of contribution in terms of taxes or anything are the ones that determine leadership. How then do you not upend the society when the larger people that do it, that are voting, are voting in a direction that probably does not enhance the betterment of the country? I just think that when you don't have a stake, the country, your voting is all over the place. Then secondly, you have talked about whether people that came in into votes, to get votes, whether we should screen them, whether they have an alternative lifestyle. I think that's brilliant, but because if you have a lifetime politician, then that's all they do, always negotiating for the next job, always trying to get the next vote. And so we never really vote on issues, we now vote on personalities. So, but prior to that, how is it realistic that we can even alter the voters register or voters participation to say, okay, stakeholders are supposed to vote. And if you're voting for this country, then you must have some form of contribution, and that's not your vote. I mean, in terms of taxes, in terms of other contributions that we can really measure, that is measurable. I just wanted to expand on that, whether it's workable or it's just a dream.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bankole. Yeah, go ahead, Muiz.
I start from the rear. I mean, your last statement, I do not believe is a dream. It could be a bit challenging, but it's not a dream. It's realistic. We can work on it. Like I said to you, I've been thinking and I'm still thinking about how to go about it. One thing that is clear to me is that, like you rightly said, there must be a way of ensuring that only stakeholders participate in that process. I'm clear in my thought on that from all my experience, my study and everything. But what are the parameters? What is the threshold that we need to apply? I'm not yet clear. In fact, I've been suggesting that to debate from various quarters to be able to arrive at a consensus. Is it that we should talk about literacy? Is it that we must talk about your tax to be a taxpayer over time, over maybe 3 years? Or is it that you must have a job of not less than, or your income must be not less than so, or you must be a property owner? I must confess to you that up to now too, I'm not clear in my thought on that subject. I'm still interrogating it equally further to see where somewhere we can have a consensus on it. But that is not necessary. I believe we spell doom for the nation. Secondly, on the issue of pedigree, I agree with you on that. Of course, we need to continue to interrogate the pedigree of these people and their competence before voting for them. And of course, we are on the same page on your first observation. You allow somebody without a stake to participate in he doesn't know what he's doing. He will continue to endanger himself and endanger you equally. It's just like the narrative of COVID. If somebody approaches you without face mask, he's not going to be endangering himself alone. He will equally endanger you. And I think that's the kind of scenario that is playing out in our electoral system. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Olufemi Babalola, you have a question? Can you please unmute yourself and speak if you're still there? Olufemi Babalola, what about Omowale Shonaike? Omowale Shonaike, please. Adewale, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Adewale Shonaike.
Okay, thank you. A brilliant presentation by Dr. Banire. But my worry is this: Nigeria is polarized, and we know we are very, very much polarized along ethnic and religious settings. How long will it take for this voters' education and change to permeate through the society, knowing fully well that election is every 4 years? After an election, everybody goes to sleep. How long do you think this electioneering enlightenment can have impact in a society like ours that is highly polarized? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chonaike. I think that now that more people are getting impacted by governance, they are beginning to wake up. And I think that our destination, you probably will get there earlier than imagined. The youths today, most of them are unemployed. That is why we had SARS the last time. the number of youth, eligible youth voters, is in the neighborhood of 60% of the total electoral voters. If the youth, for example, could just agree among themselves to say we want to push an agenda, then we probably will get to our destination faster. For example, I would confess to you, proud to answer that I had lost hope completely in the nation, completely. But by the time the SIS came, I thought about it second. I said, oh, so we are beginning to have people who know that the power belongs to them now and starting to challenge the system. Any committee or any country where the people cannot challenge the status quo or the order certainly is not going to be progressive. That's the reality. So until our people start talking, we are not heading anywhere. Just like I think it was just Stuart Muiz that says so, that all it takes for a nation to collapse or to fail is for the good people there to keep quiet. You know, Nigerians by nature, we are lackadaisical and very passive in our affairs, even where things are injuring us. And I think that is the problem. That's what the politicals take. That's the way they exploit us. They take advantage of all of us. Because we don't speak, we keep quiet. Okay, I give you an example. I'm not an economist and I'm not an accountant. I'm not a financial person. I know that you have a clear idea, and me, Pastor Itua might help me in this regard. But my sense of it, I read in the last 3 days or a week now that if you're an exporter and you export goods abroad, and there is no evidence that you return your profit or whatever, that your money back to the system, they will stop you from banking. I look at it, I say, how constitutional this is. Is this sensible? I'm aware of so many people that are exported that at times take somebody that exported wood to somewhere like China, and the wood was condemned. He couldn't even bring anything back. Or let's even assume without considering that the man succeeded. He even getting something for it. I needed to pay the school fees of his son. And he decided that rather than sending the money to him in Nigeria, where you might not be able to take it outside again to pay your son's school fees, you say, please help me pay to my son's school. And you are not saying because of that you want to penalize me. These are some of the senseless things that I believe that people ordinarily should react. But everybody will just keep quiet. Everything they keep quiet. And this is how we continue to destroy the system and allow blue murder in the state. You are not allowing, they say forest is going on. Why wouldn't it continue to go up? I'm aware of a transaction where somebody wanted to buy real estate in Nigeria, nearly about $16 million. When he realized, that was about 6 months ago, that the owners of the real estate wanted their money in foreign currency, in dollars. But when their banker said, once the money hits your account in Nigeria, it will have to be converted to Naira. What happened there next? The man said, look, I have an account in Paris. Please move the money to Paris. Come and take the real estate here. And you say, dollar is going up, pounds is going up. Why would it go? Why would you allow that money to come in, use it for about even 2-3 days before the man could make use of it? But no, you are just springing up a lot of policies draconian in nature that for me are even antithetical to the objective of it. My challenge is that, okay, look at the central bank itself. My view, with due respect to whoever is there, is that why will you have anybody other than an economist running the CBN? We are talking about economy. We are not talking about banking. But where are we today? We just gambling, experimenting every day, experimentation every day. I don't know whether Pastor knows that even in UK of all places, the central bank governor is not from the UK. He's a Canadian who was adopted, and it happens in a lot of other systems. But here, we are yet to start putting round peg in the round hole. And these useless devices that we put in place, quota system, federal character, at the end of the day, we continue to produce mediocrity, and you expect things to change. Things cannot change. That's the reality. But the good news, like I said, is that more people are beginning to be impacted now. And they are beginning to ask the question, who is there? What is happening? How can we change the system? Just like Pastor, a few years back, Pastor Uta won't even bother himself with us. But he's with us now, struggling too. And I'm sure they probably will not even have time for us too. Today you are here too concerned that how do we move this thing forward? More and more people are getting challenged. Survivor is beginning to wake them up from their slumber. And that, I believe, probably will help us to expedite the process of reform. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Muiz. Very well spoken. Can you do an analysis, if you dare, of those who seem, or well, I don't know if I should put you in this box, but if you were able to offer 2, 3, 4 people for leadership in Nigeria, who would you recommend at this point in time? Or are you saying that the field is so porous, there's nobody recommendable?
Well, for now, I am unable to do so, and I will tell you why. Something continues to tell me, and I'm sure somehow that it will play out, that whoever is going to emerge eventually as the presidential candidate, for example, is not yet in the picture at all. That somehow I believe so. I believe so.
You are talking prophetically.
The person is not in the picture. I don't know, but I know that is at the last moment that the person will emerge.
Okay, let's pray and believe.
I'm quite optimistic about that.
So you don't use what you are saying also is that a lot of the people who are popping their heads and being rumored here and there.
No, in the political environment, we always have a lot of clowns. We always have clowns. So I always enjoy it to be candid. We always have clowns now. So let's just keep on watching. But my own position is clear. Yes. Very clear is that, honestly speaking, competence must drive that process. Competence. That's the way I want to see it.
Really a deep search for competent people. Now, you've spoken about enlightening the electorate in the absence of the franchise system that you mentioned. Is there an ongoing process of voter or electorate enlightenment, and what do we do collectively or individually to enlighten the electorate? And is there a budget to it? Do you have any plans or thoughts in that regard?
Well, I know that by way of regulation, the INEC has a responsibility towards that, and also National Orientation Agency, but I can tell you for free, their contribution is infinitesimal.
Yeah.
Can't go anywhere.
No, it can't.
Apart from capacity problem, there is the funding challenge. They can't go anywhere. In fact, even I don't believe we should go there. Let's just ignore those two. And now talk about the NGOs who are supposed to play a key role here. But majority of them too, like we used to do in the days of military, they are human rights. Iresi. You know what is called Iresi? Yeah. Call them human rights groups, because they are not even focusing on the things that we expect them to focus on. Yes. They are the people that ought to take this as a challenge and be all over the place. We individuals too, we have roles to play. Call the people in your house, call the people in your neighborhood, share fellowship with people all over the whole place on information, informing people. Go to the marketplace. I have an organization that I work with. I'm sure that you are fully aware, United Action for Change is part of our own agenda. We have decided that what we are going to do is that if we say we want to do it all over Nigeria, Lagos State, for example, it will be over ambitious. So what we have decided to do is to take 1 or 2 local government at best. If we take about 2 and see Patrick Tommy's group take 1 or 2 other local government, and we take it like that and focus, preparing ambitions in all the languages to educate people on the importance of their vote, on what they must look out for in the election, or why people are perpetrating or taking advantage of them, and the implication of their indiscretion, and a whole lot of things like that. And moving out in gang, we form different sets to start going all over the whole place and see how far we can go with it. And I think that if everybody can just embrace that methodology in one form and other methodologies or other modes, we'll be heading somewhere. We'll be heading somewhere. I have no idea about what the cost implication could be, but it's more of volunteerism.
Well, you've heard Muiz and asking us to all step up on the plate. Sheikhs, you're on the platform. I'm sure you can conquer the whole of Yaba where you live. I see my sister also there, the former deputy governor of Ekiti State, Mrs. Adelabu, professor. I'm sure she can conquer the whole of Ibadan and Ekiti in terms of mobilization. I see my brother, the Prince of Ife land, Prince Ijuade. I think he can conquer the whole of Ife for us. And I see my cousin in Atlanta. Maybe he can conquer, well, Donald Trump has been conquered. Maybe he can conquer, he can conquer the whole of US and the diaspora for us. We really need a lot of us to get involved and educate people on a street-by-street basis all over the place. We have to let people know that we need a new Nigeria. We cannot continue this way. I think Nigeria is too important for all of us to just stand by and allow just anybody to lead us down a path. A lot of work to do, but we must all be prepared to do it. Aliu Akoshile, I hear you have a question or a comment very quickly.
Thank you so much, Pastor. I want to commend Dr. Banire for this, erudite presentation. Quickly, I could see that he dwelt so much on the issue of ignorance of the voters. But I think I want to disagree with him that the voters are not really totally ignorant. They are naive. And their naivety stemmed from the fact that you have a political elite that has so much money, that has so much goodwill to be dispensed, to the extent that even the answer, something that you mentioned recently, by the time we get close to election and billions are flowing all over the place, you will be surprised that the people you thought would be reasonable will become very unreasonable. That's number one. So my question is, what do you do to evolve a new political elite that has the kind of orientation that you have outlined in your presentation? And secondly, what role can, with apology to the host, what role can the clergymen play? Because I must tell you, we all know that even in endorsing people for candidature, some clergymen, they do it on the pulpits, virtually campaigning for candidates. Sometimes the candidate may not be the best. I mean, we have to face the reality, but for some, weird reasons, they have endorsed somebody and the followership are bound to want to go along that line, not minding that there are better candidates. So how do we, sort these areas out? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aliu. Muiz?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kochide, and I'm glad that you raised a very vital issue of the religious aspect of our life. We do respect to all those involved, starting from Pastor Itua. I equally believe that they've not been playing any dignifying role.
Why are you starting from me? Why are you starting from me? Okay, go ahead. I'm manipulating your leg. I will take it. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, they've not played a dignifying role. And I think somewhere along the line, maybe that is another constituency that we need to, because a lot of times you discover that, like you rightly said, a lot of people take them seriously, either by way of indoctrination or otherwise. People take them seriously, they take their political lead, their religious leaders seriously. And maybe there must be, or there should be, a conference of the clergymen, both sides, to educate themselves too on the implication of their acts to omission. They need to first educate themselves before they even go out, because at times they don't even know the implication of what they are doing. And I think that is the starting point for the religious leader. I think you start talking to themselves too, to say, look, we need to take this thing seriously. We can't be the agents of change ourselves. We can't prepare this change in the system. Across board, they can sit together and talk about all these issues. And I think I believe and I agree with you that they need to be much more forthcoming now. And beyond the second issue that you raised, I actually agree with you that you said naivety. In my presentation, I've alluded to the fact that these people are vulnerable, truly. And I tend to believe at times that is part of the deliberate agenda of the political class to continue to subjugate these people to wretchedness and pauperism so that they will not be able to reason at all. I think it's part of the agenda. So I agree with you that by the time those times come, you now discover some of these characters with somersault. They keep on somersaulting in a manner that you'll be shocked yourself. Just like recently we were shocked. So, and you know, this place we need a lot of shock absorber these days in Nigeria to be able to absorb a lot of things. So I agree with you. People somersault a lot. Maybe if you continue this, our enlightenment and strengthening and hardening of the people's mind, be proud to that period, we might be able to get somewhere. For example, most of the politicians that I know, I always tell to them, take their money, vote against them. It's when you reject their money, and it's not even their money anyway. In most of the cases, in most instances, I can tell you for free from my experience, it's not their money, it's your money. So take it. But still vote against them, tell them you have heard what they have said. But go and exercise your franchise in the manner that you believe. And I think that is very, very important. And I think that is what we need equally to take on board from that. So I agree with you that money plays a major role in this thing, and the vulnerables must be rescued. Let's rescue them. And education is the only way to rescue them in the circumstances that we are find ourselves. Then I think we get new, well, the way to get the new political edit is to develop a new political culture. And we have started. This is part of the talk. So a lot of people I can see in the chat are not comfortable with all this talk. I believe so too. We talk too much. We're always talking. Let's go out. This is the period to go out. Talk is enough. Talk is very cheap, but we need to go out. I agree. We need to start developing a new political culture. And the only way to do it, honestly speaking, is through education. It's challenging, it's difficult, but we can all move out and start doing this too. You will discover that we gain more and more comfort. As you gain more and more comfort every day, at the end of the day, you continue to see the impact in the political culture. And that eventually would, by way of a multiplier effect, get us to our destination. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think one of the things we really want to achieve on this platform is to get people to really go out and influence their society, influence their own area of influence. You can influence your home, you can influence your office, you can influence your people positively, your church or your group or your society or your club, and so on and so forth, or your street. I really want to reiterate that we cannot just stand back and fold our hands and then still be complaining and grumbling all over the place. I think is this Davids or Daniel? Ola Davids, we want to ask a question or make a comment very quickly. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, Ola Daniels.
Daniels, okay.
Yes. Good evening, Pastor Otua. Good evening, my wonderful lecturer, Prof. Banire. Sir, like all that have been said is noted. Now, two key issues, because really, I don't think these people are the problems. I think we, the electorate, are the problems. I believe that number of people that want to go and steal as we speak are more than the number of people that are stealing as we speak right now. So a lot of people, all what we are saying to them, we are only speaking grammar. It's just for the time to come, then they armor whatever they want to armor. It's about me, myself, and I. Now, we had answers. I believe that by this time, we should have a momentum. We should have, we should have a revolution. When I say a revolution, I mean by now, because later this year, INEC is going to come up with the registration. You'll find out that most of our people are still going to maintain their social media, and they will be voting from social media. What is important will not still take charge of it. Now, with the leaders we have, that if you make any attempt, what you get next is victimization. We saw what happened to this number of people that the alleged sponsors or answers. We saw what happened. So at what point, where do we manage this? How do we get convinced as a people that if I go ahead and I do this, we are talking about different formations as to different groups now coming up probably to take their Jerusalem, to take their land, educate them and do that. Then the question is, how are we sure that we will be able to do this successfully without people victimizing our people? That means without the power play now, the leaders victimizing our people. Now, the second question, sir, is this. As a people—
Very quickly, Olayinka. And I can assure you that victimization is part of the risk you have to take. You cannot ensure victimization. You saw what happened to our children at the toll gates. They stuck out their heads and they lost their lives. That's part of the risk of Nigeria. We even make a simple comment here. Somebody threatens your economic well-being. We are still in that state right now. And we just have to bear that brunt.
Another one is, my fear is the willpower. Do we have it to take our nations by our hands? Yes, doctor has said a lot about us making sure we collect the money, still go ahead and do what you have to do. But really, because the same people that these people are using against us are still the youth. With the youth that want to take over, they will still go and give those youths money. We saw what happened during NSASA. We saw it. It was glaring. So how do we achieve this? These people, they have really taken over. So how do we then take it by force without violence?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Banire, please.
Well, thank you very much, Daniel. I think that let me start with political will. The issue of political will, we all develop it one by one, the way we are talking. And let me not deceive you or pretend. What we are embarking upon or what we are doing is a struggle. It's called a struggle. We just have to continue. Like Pastor rightly said, there is no gain without pain. Oh. There is no gain without pain. There must be pain, there must be sacrifice. They will harass you, they will intimidate you, they will victimize you, anyone you can think of. But if you are resolute, you see, you get become an institution yourself in this room. When you become an institution, it comes with a lot of sacrifices and deprivation, undoubtedly. Those who did the last one, some of us never left them alone. No. We are still with them. We are still battling with them because we know that they are genuine. It's not that they are being sponsored by anybody. It's just that they have gotten to a level of frustration and something they must react. That is the reality. And so I believe that what we need to do, fear no victimization is expected. And if you are able to form ourselves into a ring and we move in unity, at the end of the day, we will continue to resist them. They can't kill all of us. That's why I said sovereignty and power belong to them. They can't kill all of us. I'm telling you, we have to just continue. It might take a long time. My belief is that it might not be today. It might not even be 2023. But the journey of a 1,000 miles starts with one leg, or one. You just move first. One step. With one step. So if that is the situation, we have to be realistic that this comes with a lot. So let us continue to mobilize ourselves. When you see how formidable we are, they themselves, they will eat up. Give it to the president during that period. At least he was still able to say that he recognized the power of the people to protest. No matter how. In the past, they won't recognize it. They will not even say so. That is movement, that is progress. So let's consolidate, let's build on it. The reality is that we are disorganized. We are not organized. To have any meaningful and effective change, there is a need for for organization. A lot of cells must intermingle. And that is very, very important for the struggle. Thank you.
Okay, let me take you up on one question before I call somebody else. There's this Sunday Igboho that has now emerged suddenly on the firmament. At least for me, it is sudden. For some people, maybe they've known or heard about him before. And he's tackled this issue of Fulani herdsmen and so on and so forth. I want to hear your opinion on the issue of Fulani herdsmen, first of all, the various kidnappings all over the place, and then this Sunday Igboho man, and what really do you think? Do you have an opinion on it at all? And the implications for the Southwest and all these governors forums that are meeting now.
Let me say that in the first instance, that I always have difficulty in saying or agreeing to the term Fulani herdsmen. I think there must be a proper definition of who these people are. In the first instance, they are simply criminals. They are simply criminals. Secondly, then not all that are herdsmen are criminals. I have a farm. I have a lot of livestock. I have not less than about 5 Fulani men working there. Very peaceful. They never leave my farm. They operate there. They are there. They are doing what they are doing. And a lot of people have farm even in this area that are Westerners, Southwesterners, and most of them engage these people in some way. But of course, there is the invasion of the criminal elements among them in the system. But they ought to be treated with decisiveness. But that is what is lacking, because along the line, it seems that there is a mixture of ethnicity with governance, with enforcement, and all those issues. And I think that's where the challenge is. So for me, these are just simply criminals that they must be dealt with in that manner. Now, coming to Sunday Igboho, well, the man rose up in defense. I have said it earlier. I said, look, we cannot afford to be passive. When he rose up now, you have seen a lot of engagement in the last couple of weeks, a lot of engagement, even with Miyetti Allah, with even the governor, with even the president engaged both governors of Oyo and Ondo yesterday on the subject. And if not that he spoke in that manner, you see, our reaction must always propel positivity. That's the truth. Insofar as we continue to be passive, you are not only endangering yourself, you are endangering the entire system. Even the president might not even know what is going on, except there is noise. If you are in your room and you don't know, there is no noise outside, you won't know what is going on. So I think there is the necessity for this noise from some quarters. So to that extent, honestly speaking, I believe that the man has spoken out to say, my people are being oppressed, they are being harassed, they are being maimed. I need to defend them even if at the risk of my own life. Something like that must always happen at a point in time or the other in order to witness development or progress in the society. It's just normal. So that's my reaction to it.
Okay, can I have Okwe Osho, please ask the question? Please unmute yourself, Okwe Osho, and ask your question quickly.
Thank you, Pastor Jodalo.
Please speak loudly.
All right, thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Dr. Banire. You said a lot of things, but I felt that there's a particular aspect of governance that you did not really suggest possible solutions for, which is the one that really concerns you, and that's the judiciary. I myself am a member of the United Action for Change, and a lot of us are beginning to wake up to some of these responsibilities. But there's this crucial part you talked about, the vulnerable poor. They need to be protected. Part of the way they'll get protected is through the judiciary, through a proper law system that if they can seek justice. We all witnessed the American elections in the last few months. It's very surprising to see that a Donald Trump, for instance, can bring up over 50 cases, and these 50 cases get adjudicated upon within 48 hours, 3 days, 4 days, 1 day. They get a judgment, and that's it. and over 50 cases are, dispensed with in the space of 2-3 months. But in Nigeria, that's not the case. We have cases pending in court for 2, 3, 4 years. Where is the justice? The vulnerable poor, somebody takes something that belongs to them. They don't have anywhere to seek justice from. They can't go to the courts because justice is not present there. So I want you to help us with ideas on what kind of reforms. You talked about constitutional amendments. That's the legislature. We all keep talking about the executive arm of government, but the judicial arm of the government, the judiciary, is an area where we overlook, but a lot of reforms need to take place so that we can have institutions, like you say, we can go to court, press for changes, make demands, and get backing of the law through this process. That's my contribution, sir.
Muiz, you want to speak to that? Or?
Thank you very much, Mr. Yeah. You see, I thank you for raising that issue. Undoubtedly, the judiciary is the bedrock of democracy and by extension, good governance. That's the reality. But I cannot and I must not be seen to be pretending that all is well with the judiciary. We are equally challenged. The judiciary is weak. We're in a very bad shape. That's the reality. And I agree with you. Unfortunately for us, without justice, there can't be security. There can't be security. Without justice, there can't be peace. Without justice, there can't even be development. At the end of the day, if you don't have a justice system or judiciary that is credible, independent, there's nobody, foreign investor that will come into such an environment. So it's a very, very important organ. But what is the situation on ground? Let me tell you without fear of conclusion. The first thing is that at all levels of our governance, federal and state, the judiciary continues to be treated as an agency of the executive rather than as an organ of the government. That is the beginning of the woes of the judiciary. The Constitution guarantees financial autonomy for the judiciary, but I tell you as of now, that is not there. In fact, at the federal level, there is something called envelope system. It happened during the last one. I said so many things in the media, that how can you be appropriating 110 billion to the entire judiciary of the nation? Something that cannot even deal with the infrastructure of the court. But they are being treated in that manner. Whereas the judiciary is supposed to parade their own budget in an independent fashion. But that is not what is obtainable. So that is the beginning of our crisis. There is no financial autonomy. And to a certain extent, therefore, you have cases in some instances, particularly at the state level, or he who pays the piper dictates the tune. And that is a major struggle going, fighting it to ensure that we have financial autonomy. And that is one of the veritable ways of ensuring the viability and the credibility of the judiciary. Secondly, again, is the issue of technology, because there is even no money. Look, since COVID started, we have been in a bad shape. They will come out and say we can do virtual court system. You are doing virtual court system. Just this morning, I was making a presentation virtually in a court. Before we know it, the judge was already yanked up. We have to start waiting for the next 15 minutes, looking for the judge. So there is no infrastructure. Is this Zoom we should be using for court proceeding? Is that the way it's done there? In UK, there are 2 agencies that run their technology backbone for them. They are even independent of the system.
You see now. You are yanked off too. Technology has frozen you, Muiz. You see that? When you speak against technology, technology strikes back.
So this is what we are going through in the judiciary. But the appointment process is a big challenge, and I'm glad that they are all talking about the same thing.
Okay, Muiz, I'm going to ask you one question as we begin to round up, and I think it's a fair question. If you became president of Nigeria tomorrow or the next day or 2023, what are the things that you'll address to turn Nigeria around and make Nigeria what it should be? Or are you going to also pocket Nigeria, make it a lot of money, and play the usual politics?
Well, the first thing I will do will be the appointment of competent leaders, regardless of where they are from, regardless of their religious inclination, regardless of their tribal affiliation or anything. I will be, first and foremost, all the appointment will be competency based. That is the first test that I will apply. Once you have competent people, and again, it's very important whether we like it or not, they must be young men, they must be young people. Even if you have the ideas in the world, I tell you, not agility in this business. You can only achieve so much. You are able to move around. People that as far as
is it from his side or from his side? It's gone off. Well, Dr. Banire has gone off, and maybe we'll give he prophesied against the courts today, and the prophecy came to pass in his own. We're now looking for him all over the place. But I don't know, maybe we'll give him a minute or two to try and come back. He's back. You have to unmute. We're looking for you to all over the place. The way you were looking for the judge.
This technology again. This is the problem that we have with the system. So that's what I will do in the system. Then secondly, I discovered something that had happened in Dubai. In one of the books that I read about the leadership qualities of Jake Maktoum, I discovered that the way the man is working, you know, the man has somehow indoctrinated all his people to the extent that they don't settle for anything number two. They are thinking, they are taught everything. In fact, he said, there is a quote that I took from his book. He said, impossibility is a choice. That as far as they are concerned in Dubai, there is nothing impossible. He said, if you are the one that are choosing to say something is impossible, then you limit your energy immediately by so agreeing that something is impossible. That's the first thing. And again, if you now move further, what he has done is to put up an economy that defies logic. He said, for example, which I agree, he said, all over the world, when Dubai started, people were saying, it will collapse, it will do this, because they couldn't understand the concept of Dubai development. Because, for example, supply follows demand. That's what they told us in economics. But in Dubai, it's demand that follows supply there. They require 10 things, they will provide 100 things. Because they know it to be needed and it will have been provided at a cheaper amount. By the time you get there, others won't be able to provide you are provided. There is a concept that I discovered he has used maximally. And the concept of free trade zone. Even at the airport, there is free trade zone. Everywhere, free trade zone. Dubai Internet City, Dubai Studio City, Dubai Media City. And he said, why did I settle for this kind of governance? Because I know that the regulation, the legal framework within the regular operation of the UAE will not allow us to progress quickly. So I need a place where people can easily do achieve or attain their objective easily without any form of restriction. And that's why people troop into this area. Instead of Dubai Internet, everybody moved there. Media studios, they moved there. So you will find out that in virtually every aspect, even the education, there is Dubai Healthcare City. All of them are free trade zone. And that is the way the man has succeeded in moving the place. And it's a very bold, it takes bold and courageous decision into the future. And I think that some of the things that I say, I will emulate his way. So if I to be in this, if I happen to be the of this nature, I will emulate it about how I achieve all those feats, and I will adopt them. And I am very, very optimistic. They are workable, they are doable, and they will take us out quickly. But again, as I wrote or noted in one of my columns, our leaders don't read. They don't read. They can't even read. If ordinary memo, they can't read. So they don't read. They don't know. They are not exposed. That is part of the challenge we have in the system. And I think that is why we must start looking for people that are knowledgeable to drive this process for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muiz Banire, SAN. Somebody called you a professor, and indeed you have spoken as a professor. We're very grateful to you for coming to spend your time with us today. I want to thank everybody that has been on this platform. It's been a very interesting evening. Even as I look at your faces, I think you still want to hear more from Dr. Banire, and people are willing to be here. Maybe we'll do a vigil one day and then take an offering after that. But the important thing is that we must make Nigeria work. We must make Nigeria work. We must try our best to make Nigeria work. We must put in our blood, our sweat. This Dubai experience too is a great one for me. I was there recently. Doctor were there, but at the same time, I didn't know you were there. Otherwise, I'd have come to collect some dirham from you. But that guy has done phenomenally well. I mean, he's done phenomenally well, building a desert into a great city.
After you, I will recommend strongly to you some of his write-ups. There is one he wrote recently, My Story.
Yes, I've read
50 years governor. Have you read? There is one written by Dr. Jarar. It's called the Sheikh CEO. Leadership.
Yes.
You need to, have you read that?
I haven't read it. I bought it, but I haven't read it. The Sheikh CEO.
Yeah, you need to read it. You need to read it. Honestly, you will see governance as his height. There is also flashes of thought by him also.
Flashes of thought.
You
yes.
need to look. Yeah.
Yes.
You see,
yes.
most of it is, if only our leaders will just sit down and read, it's enough for them to serve as a roadmap.
Yes. Yes, everywhere in Dubai is profitable. Even the deserts, they say go for desert, what do they call it? Desert safari. So myself and my children went for desert safari. We're just driving up and down in the sand here and there. So I said, but we have sand in Maiduguri, we have sand in Zamfara. It has not occurred to us that we can do Zamfara safari, we can do desert safari, you know? I mean, it's incredible. Everywhere they make money from, they use it to interest people. They made me take a picture with a falcon. I paid $3 to take picture with a falcon. I said, you know, I mean, I asked my PA, I said, would you take picture with a fowl in Nigeria with chicken? They says no, but here I am taking picture with, you know, it's incredible. And they brought the whole world to Dubai. I hear he told them Disneyland.
Everybody that takes towards this.
They brought the whole world. An Australian relocated to Dubai and said she felt safer in Dubai than in Australia. I said, what this is unbelievable. Yeah. The man has made the place so safe.
I'm sure you have noticed also, Pastor, you also have noticed the apparent absence of even policemen on the street. Whereas the security is at its peak, both technology and intelligence-wise. You hardly will see their police vehicles on the road.
Hardly.
But the intelligence is strong.
Yeah.
They're all over the whole place. You won't see them.
Yeah.
Cameras are all over the whole place. Everybody lives safely here.
Yes. and they're monitoring everybody. They give you visa, they don't care. They are watching you.
Yes.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yes. The man is almost a genius. So, Dr. Banire, let us have your last words and then we will close. Otherwise, everybody here will want to go to Dubai if we're not careful.
Well, the last remark would just simply be that, I mark my word, maybe we should not give up and we should all still wake up and continue to make attempt at reforming our nation. And the only way we can do so is to be active participant in the electoral process. We must not allow the politicians to continue to scare us away from it. We must be there. We must resist them. We must go all out to inform and enlighten the people. It's not a tea party at all. Power is always said it's not serve a la carte. You have to struggle for power. I seize this opportunity to particularly implore the youths who constitute more than 50% of the eligible voters. They ought to determine who our leaders should be. And I believe to a large extent they are substantially enlightened enough. Please, they should move out among themselves, form rings, form cell, and make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. God bless you. You and I would have deeper talks going forward to see what we can do. I would like to assure you that I am involved in this process. I will be involved in this process. I will do my best to galvanize Nigeria and Nigerians to a different place. I want to thank all those who have joined in. I see my sister Funlayo Tejo Show. I see Chike Oge, my brother, David Bankole, Sheikh Ladipo, as always. Thank you very much. Her Excellency, Mrs. Adelabu, God bless you. Thank you, Yetunde. Thank you, Auntie Ronke Fetuga. The Duke Bolahon, Theodore Awani, thank you for your love. Regina, God bless you. Abims, Walioba, Sonjo, Shegun Emmanuel, and so on and so forth. Tommy, Tom Fudeko, thank you very much for being here. Tokumbo Toyo, Adewale Williams Collins, Dr. Tommy Koka, I see you also. God bless you all. Thank you very much for being here. Kenny Orororo, I thank you. I don't want to mention too many names. If I have not mentioned your name, don't be offended. I can't mention everybody's name. Bolahon Raji, Lincoln Falano, Prince Azubike, I hope the UK is treating you well. Dr. Oluwo, God bless you all. Emmanuel Essien, thank you. Tomorrow, sorry, I beg your pardon. Next week, 5 o'clock, definitely we'll be back on the platform. Please inform people, send the link to them, let them join us, let them be part of this discourse, let them see what is going on in Nigeria, and so on and so forth. Please make sure you invite somebody. We have enough bandwidth to take as many people as possible. We'll also send invitations around to know who is speaking, but just come on the platform at 5 o'clock anyway, and you'll find us here. Thank you. God bless you. Have a pleasant evening and a very, very wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you again, my brother Muiz. God be with you. Give my love to Madame and my lovely children. God bless you. Thank you. Good night.